So now you have successfully completed the rows and column. I hope you have clearly understand about rows and column. In case if you are having any doubts, so you can re-watch the video and make sure you have completely understand rows and column, because this is very important in a Flutter development. So next we are going to see what is stateless widget and stateful widget and when you have to choose that. So now I am going to explain the difference between stateless and stateful widget. So stateless widget means in case if you want to display any static information, that moment we have to use the stateless widget. In case if you want to display any dynamic data, or in case if you want to re-render the UI based on the user event. So user event means it can be a network request or based on the click, anything, okay. So in case if you want to change the UI based on the user event, so that moment you have to use the stateful widget. So in our use case, so far we have used the stateless widget, right? Because we are not modifying anything, okay? We are just rendering the data, okay? We are not making the network request, or we are not based on the any event, like a user is not clicking anything, okay? So that moment we are using the stateless widget. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to completely remove this and see how the code will looks like, okay? So stateless widget code, okay. So this is the syntax for creating a stateless widget, okay. So it have the class name and it extends the stateless widget, okay. Extends is nothing but the stateless widget is used for creating a custom widget, right? So it is coming from this material app, okay. So we are extending means we are creating our own widget based on the stateless widget. That is the meaning for that. So next we have a override function, right? So inside the stateless widget there will be a function called build method, okay. We are overriding that, we are creating our own build method. That is the meaning of the override, okay. So this is the syntax for that. So every widget it will have the build and it will return always a widget, okay. So right now we are returning the container, right? So that is the return. So this return you can find you can always find inside the build method. This is how the stateless widget looks like, okay. So let's create a stateful widget. So now we have created a stateful widget. So when you are creating a stateful widget, what will happen? It will create a state separately, okay. Inside the state only you can find the build method, not inside this particular function, okay. So here we are rewriting the create state using the override function, okay. So this is the syntax for the stateful widget. So now we have understand the difference between the stateless and stateful widget. So let's write the code and see how it is going to work. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to remove everything and create a stateless widget. So here it is going to be a material app. So inside the material app we have a home. So this home is going to have a scaffold. So inside the scaffold we have a body. So this body, what I am going to do here, I am going to create a simple counter application, okay. So as a beginner you might make some mistake. So this semicolon, the return, it should always have a semicolon, okay, after the particular widget. So here we have created some simple UI. So using the column, so this column we have a center position, okay. So now what I am going to do here, so when the user click this press button, add a button, so we have to increase the value. So for that I am going to create a variable called count. So initially the value is going to be a 0. So this is how you have to create the variable. So where is a keyword and this is the variable name and this is the value for that. So right now we need to display the count. So to display the count, so here you have to use dollar symbol and the count, that variable name, okay. So if I refresh now, so here it is a 0 only, okay, we are not changing anything. So when the user click this button, we need to increase the count, okay. So we have on press, right? So here what we have to do, so count equal to count plus 1, okay. So I'm going to print it, okay. So print means it will display the value inside the console. So if I refresh this, so now you can see when I click this, so here you can see the count value is 1. So if I click this, the count value is 2. So I'm clicking multiple times, okay. The count value is 6. Also here you can notice Even the count value is updated, here the UI is not updating, okay, because that is the stateless widget. Stateless widget means the UI is used for displaying the static information. It won't change dynamically, okay. So now what I'm going to do here, instead of the stateless widget, I'm going to create a stateful widget. So now what we did, we didn't change any code, just we converted the stateless widget into stateful widget. So I'm going to do the hard reload. So now when I click add, so here you can see the value is changing. Again, the UI is not updating, okay. Whenever you are using a stateful widget, so you have to use the function called set state. So inside the set state, you need to give this value. So let me explain what the set state will do. Set state is nothing but whenever you are calling this function, so this build method, it will re-render, okay. So re-render means what will happen? The next time the count value will be automatically increased and it will display here. So you don't need to worry about that. It will be in a microsecond, okay. So if I refresh now, so here you can see the 3. So if I click multiple times, the value is increasing. So whenever you are using the set state, what will happen? The entire UI, it will rebuild automatically. So this is the difference between the stateless widget and stateful widget. So let me re-explain again. So stateless widget means it's used for displaying the static information. But stateful means in case if you want to change the UI based on the user event, so that moment you have to use the stateful widget. So this is the difference between the stateless and stateful widget.